The night Sydney glittered beneath the harbour lights, Ava Hartley thought she finally had a moment of peace, even if peace had become a stranger to her. 8 months pregnant, her body aching and swollen, she walked slowly through the lobby of the waterfront restaurant, where her husband Liam had insisted they meet. She didn't trust him anymore, not after the last months of coldness, not after finding lipstick in his car. Not after the late-night meetings that smelled like perfume she didn't own, but tonight he had begged her to come. "I just want to talk," he'd said. "We need to reconnect." Against her better judgment, she had agreed, because her daughter deserved at least one attempt at saving their family. The hostess guided her through the golden-lit dining room, where wealthy executives and influencers dined over oysters and champagne. Normally, Ava belonged to this world, raised in a billionaire dynasty, accustomed to private yachts and penthouses in Darling Point. But tonight, every step felt heavy, as if something terrible waited just beyond the next breath. And she was right, because as she approached the private terrace, her heart froze. Liam wasn't alone. Standing beside him, leaning against his chair with the arrogance of someone who believed she had already won, was Charlotte Hale, his mistress. The woman Ava had prayed wasn't real. The woman she had tried to convince herself was only a rumor. The woman whose messages she had discovered on Liam's phone only a week earlier. Photos, hotel bookings, promises whispered in the dark. Charlotte smiled, slowly, cruelly. "Oh, good," she said. The pregnant one finally arrived. Ava's breath cracked. She turned to Liam, desperate for denial, for any sign that he understood the cruelty of what he'd done. Instead, he looked annoyed. "You're late," he muttered. "We ordered without you." Ava felt the sting of humiliation burn through her. "You brought her here?" Liam exhaled sharply. "Ava, stop being dramatic. It's time you faced reality. Charlotte is important to me." The words sliced through her like glass. "I'm your wife," she whispered. Charlotte let out a high, mocking laugh. "Not for long." Liam didn't stop her. He didn't defend Ava. He didn't even flinch. He just sat there sipping his drink, as if his pregnant wife weren't trembling from betrayal only a meter away. Ava stepped back, dizzy. "Liam, how could you?" Charlotte circled her like a shark. "You should have expected this. Look at you. Tired, slow, boring." She leaned in. "He deserves better." Ava's hands trembled over her belly. Her daughter kicked, reacting to the spike of fear in her mother's chest. "Stop," Ava whispered. "Please." But Charlotte didn't stop. Instead, she reached forward and shoved Ava, hard. Ava lost her balance instantly, stumbling backward until her body struck the terrace railing, pain shooting up her spine. Gasps filled the restaurant. Liam shot to his feet, but not toward his wife. Not to help her, not to stop the assault. He grabbed Charlotte's arm. "Are you insane?" But Charlotte jerked away. "She'll be fine. Pregnant women fall all the time." Ava's vision blurred with tears. Her body shook. Her breath came in sharp, panicked bursts. She pressed a hand to her stomach, terrified for her unborn child. "I could have fallen," she whispered. Charlotte smirked. That was the point. Something inside Ava collapsed. The betrayal wasn't just emotional anymore. It was physical, violent, dangerous. And Liam still didn't come to her. He didn't cradle her, didn't check the baby, didn't even apologize. He just ran a hand through his hair, muttering, "Can you stop making a scene?" "People are watching." Ava steadied herself, breath trembling, and whispered the words that changed everything. "My father will destroy you for this." Charlotte rolled her eyes. "Oh, please," she scoffed. "He's just some old CEO." Ava's eyes sharpened. "He's Jonathan Hartley." The name hit them like lightning, because Jonathan Hartley wasn't just a CEO. He was one of the most feared corporate titans in Australia, owner of Hartley Global Mining, investor in half of Sydney's skyline, a man whose silence made governments tremble, and he adored his daughter more than anything on earth. Charlotte blanched. Liam froze completely. Ava reached into her bag with shaking hands and pulled out her phone. One press, one call, one sentence, and the world would change. She dialed. "Dad," she whispered when he answered. "I need you." Silence. Then Jonathan's voice, low and dangerous. "Where are you?" Ava gave the location. Jonathan didn't ask what happened, didn't need details, didn't require explanation. His tone shifted into something cold enough to make Ava's knees weaken. "Stay where you are. I'm coming." "Dad." "I said stay." The call ended. Ava exhaled shakily. Liam stepped toward her. "Ava, wait. Don't touch me," she said, voice trembling but firm. Charlotte glared. "Great." Daddy's girl is crying, but even she felt the air shift, because a storm was coming, and it wasn't the weather, it was Jonathan Hartley. And when he arrived, nothing would ever be the same again. The minutes after Ava's call felt like hours. The restaurant staff whispered nervously, unsure whether to intervene or flee. Guests pretended not to stare, but failed miserably. Every wealthy socialite in the room recognized the name Jonathan Hartley, and the terror that rippled through the terrace was instant, electric, undeniable. Ava leaned heavily against the railing, one hand clutching her belly, the other gripping the cold metal behind her. Every breath felt tight, shallow. Her daughter moved anxiously inside her, responding to her mother's distress. Liam hovered a few steps away, guilt twisting his features, but he still didn't approach. Not to comfort her, not to apologize. He simply stood there, paralyzed by the consequences he had never imagined would come. Charlotte, however, still had arrogance burning in her eyes. She paced back and forth, muttering under her breath, refusing to accept that she'd crossed a line even someone like her couldn't slither out of. "This is ridiculous," she snapped. "She's acting like she's dying. She barely touched the rail." Ava's voice cracked as she answered, "You shoved me. I'm 8 months pregnant." Charlotte rolled her eyes. "Pregnant women are always dramatic." Liam snapped, "Charlotte, stop talking." She scoffed. "Please, you're only panicking because Daddy Warbucks is coming to scold you." But Liam wasn't looking at Charlotte anymore. He was staring at Ava, the fear in her eyes, the tears clinging to her lashes, the protective way she held her stomach. For the first time in months, he saw not the woman he had grown bored of, not the wife he had taken for granted, but the mother of his child. And guilt finally hit him like a punch. "Ava," he started, stepping forward. She flinched hard. "Stay away from me." Liam froze. The crowd parted then, subtle at first, then abrupt, because there was a sound approaching. A deep thrumming vibration, growing louder, stronger, charging the air itself. Liam turned toward the harbor, just as the helicopter lights broke through the darkness, slicing across the water, illuminating the terrace with a harsh white beam. The rotor wash tore napkins and menus off tables as the aircraft descended onto the private helipad beside the restaurant. People shielded their faces. Wind roared through the terrace, forcing chairs to scrape violently across the floor. Charlotte shrieked. Liam's jaw dropped. Ava stood completely still, tears streaming down her face, not from fear but from relief. The helicopter touched down with military precision. The door swung open. Out stepped Jonathan Hartley. Tall, immaculate, controlled, a storm wrapped in a billionaire's suit. His grey hair was swept back, sharp against the harsh helipad lights. His eyes, icy, lethal, locked onto Ava instantly. He didn't spare a single glance at Liam or Charlotte. Not yet. Two bodyguards followed behind him, massive men in black, moving like shadows determined to protect their target at any cost. Jonathan's strides were long, furious but silent, the kind of fury that didn't shout, it destroyed. Ava's body trembled uncontrollably. "Dad!" Jonathan reached her in seconds. His hands, strong, steady, warm, cupped her face as he examined her, scanning for injury like a doctor and a soldier combined. "Did they hurt you?" he asked, voice rough with barely contained rage. Ava choked on a sob. "She pushed me." Jonathan's jaw clenched so violently the muscles trembled. He looked down at her belly. "Is the baby moving?" "Yes," she whispered, "but I'm scared." Jonathan exhaled slowly, a tremor hidden beneath the surface. "You're safe now." Only then did he turn. First to Liam, then to Charlotte. The shift in his expression felt like the temperature of the entire city dropped. Jonathan stepped closer to Liam until they stood nearly chest to chest. "You pushed her?" Jonathan asked, though the question was rhetorical. He already knew the truth. "No," Liam said quickly. "It wasn't me, it was—" Jonathan cut him off. "You let it happen." Liam's mouth opened, closed, opened again. Jonathan continued, voice sharpening. "You didn't protect her, you didn't shield her, you didn't defend your own unborn child." Each sentence landed like a blade. Liam whispered, "I made a mistake." "This wasn't a mistake," Jonathan snapped. "This was cruelty." A hush fell across the terrace. Jonathan turned his attention to Charlotte, the woman who had shoved his pregnant daughter. The woman who now trembled beneath the weight of his gaze. Jonathan took one step toward her. Charlotte stepped back. He took another. She hit the railing. Jonathan's voice was low enough that only the three of them could hear, but everyone felt the menace in the air. "You put your hands on my daughter," he said, "and the only reason you're still standing here is because she is watching." Charlotte's breaths came out in panicked bursts. I didn't mean—" Jonathan leaned closer. "You touched my granddaughter." Charlotte's face drained completely of color. Jonathan finally leaned back, straightening his jacket. Then he turned his eyes back to Liam, eyes cold enough to freeze steel. "I am going to dismantle your life piece by piece," he said, "legally, financially, publicly, and permanently." Liam swallowed hard, terror flooding his features. Charlotte grabbed his arm. "Do something!" Liam didn't move, because even he knew. This was the beginning of the end. Jonathan turned to Ava and gently wrapped an arm around her back. "Let's go," he murmured. "You're coming home." Ava leaned into him, exhausted, broken but safe. Jonathan signaled to his men, and the bodyguard stepped in, forming a protective wall around her as they escorted her to the helicopter. Liam took a desperate step forward. "Ava, please, let me talk." Jonathan snapped his fingers once. Both bodyguards blocked Liam with brutal precision. "Do not approach my daughter again," Jonathan warned without looking back. "Not tonight, not ever." The helicopter blades roared back to life. Ava climbed inside holding her belly, tears still falling. As they lifted into the night sky, Sydney shrinking beneath them, Jonathan took her hand gently in his. His voice softened only for her. "You're safe now, sweetheart," he whispered, "and I promise you once what they did tonight will be the last pain they ever cause you." Ava closed her eyes. And for the first time in months, she believed him. The helicopter sliced through the night, its blades beating against the wind as Jonathan held Ava's trembling hand with a grip both protective and heartbreakingly gentle. Sydney glittered below them, its lights stretching like constellations across the dark water, but Ava couldn't focus on any of it. Her chest rose and fell in shallow breaths, every muscle in her body trembling with delayed shock. Jonathan watched her carefully. Every few seconds his gaze flicked to her belly, making sure she wasn't in pain, that her breathing remained even, that the baby didn't show signs of distress. He wasn't just a father in that moment. He was a guardian, shielding the last fragile pieces of his daughter's world. Ava's voice finally broke through the silence. "Dad, she shoved me. She really shoved me." Jonathan exhaled slowly, deep, controlled, the kind of breath a man takes when he's fighting the urge to burn the world down. "You're safe now," he said. "I won't let anything like that happen again." Ava wiped her eyes. "Liam just stood there. He didn't help me. He didn't even look at me." Jonathan's jaw tightened. "Because he's a coward." Ava swallowed hard. She laughed. She actually laughed while I was struggling to stay upright. Jonathan shook his head, fury simmering beneath the surface. "Then she doesn't understand what fear is, but she will." Ava looked at him, really looked, and for the first time felt the full weight of the power her father held. Her father wasn't just wealthy, he wasn't just a CEO. Jonathan Hartley moved markets, influenced political decisions, changed the trajectory of entire industries with a single phone call. And tonight, he was about to use every ounce of that power to defend her. "Dad," Ava whispered, "I don't want anyone hurt. I just want this to stop." Jonathan turned toward her fully, his expression softening. "I will never break the law for you, but I will use every legal weapon I have. I'll make sure they can't come within a mile of you, or this baby." A tiny, fragile breath escaped Ava's lungs, a breath of relief mixed with exhaustion. "Thank you," she whispered. Jonathan lifted her hand and kissed the top of it, the same way he had when she was 5 years old and afraid of the dark. "You don't need to thank me," he said. "Protecting you is the only job I care about." When the helicopter landed on the rooftop of Hartley Tower in Barangaroo, paramedics were already waiting. Jonathan didn't let go of Ava until the lead paramedic stepped forward. "Ma'am, can you breathe normally? Any abdominal pain, any dizziness?" the woman asked. Ava shook her head. "No pain, just shaken." "We'll do a full evaluation," the paramedic said gently, "just to make sure everything is stable." Jonathan followed closely, as they guided Ava through the rooftop entrance and into the private medical suite located on the 52nd floor. Most billionaires invested in art galleries or underground wine vaults. Jonathan had invested in an on-site medical wing, complete with prenatal specialists, for emergencies exactly like this. Ava lay back on the examination bed as the paramedics checked her vitals. Her heart rate was elevated, but the baby's heartbeat was steady, strong, rhythmic, a sound that brought relief crashing over her. Jonathan stood in the corner, arms crossed, eyes fixed on every movement the medics made. The rage in him hadn't faded. It waited beneath the surface like a coiled serpent, but it was directed entirely outward, toward the man who failed her, toward the woman who endangered his grandchild. "Stress levels are high," the medic said gently, "but the baby is perfectly fine. Strong heartbeat, no complications." Ava closed her eyes as tears of relief slid down her temples. Jonathan released a breath he'd been holding since the moment the call came. His shoulders dropped slightly and he approached the bed, brushing his thumb across Ava's forehead. "You're okay," he whispered. "You're both okay." Ava looked up at him. "What happens now?" Jonathan's expression darkened. Now I clean up the mess." At that exact moment across the city, chaos erupted in the restaurant's private lounge. Liam paced back and forth, hands pulling at his hair, face pale, breath shaky. "I didn't think she'd call him. I didn't think—" Charlotte sat on the sofa, arms crossed tightly. "Why are you freaking out? So what?" he yelled. "Big deal." "Big deal," Liam snapped. "Charlotte, you shoved his pregnant daughter." "Oh, please," she scoffed. "You make it sound like I pushed her down the stairs." Liam stopped and stared at her, disbelief twisting his face. "You could have hurt her. You could have hurt the baby." Charlotte rolled her eyes. "She's an heiress, not a porcelain doll." Liam took a step toward her. "What is wrong with you? You're not scared after what he said?" Charlotte lifted her chin defiantly. "Jonathan Hartley can't touch me." But her voice shook. And Liam noticed. He sank onto a chair, burying his face in his hands. "I'm finished," he whispered. "My reputation, my company, everything. He's going to ruin me." Charlotte scoffed. "You're overreacting." But she couldn't hide the tremor in her hands. Because she had seen the look in Jonathan Hartley's eyes. And no one survived that look unscathed. Back at Hartley Tower, Ava sat up slowly. The paramedics had left. The suite was quiet, peaceful, warm. Jonathan stood by the window, looking down at the glittering city below. Ava whispered, "Dad, what are you thinking?" Jonathan didn't turn around. Retribution. Ava swallowed. "Please, at nothing violent." Jonathan faced her, his expression calculating, precise. "I don't need violence, I have influence." He took out his phone. Ava watched as he made a single call. A call that would shift the ground beneath Liam's feet. "Activate the proceedings," Jonathan said, "tonight." A pause. "Yes, all of them." He ended the call and looked at Ava with calm finality. "What they did to you," he said softly, "ends now." The city of Sydney never truly slept, but on this night, as storm clouds gathered over the harbour and the sky pulsed with distant lightning, Something else stirred quietly beneath the surface, fear. Not in Ava, not in Jonathan, but in the people whose lives were about to unravel because they had dared to harm her. Inside Hartley Tower's private suite, Ava rested on the plush leather sofa, one hand gently stroking her belly, trying to calm the lingering tremors in her chest. Jonathan stood near the window, his silhouette framed by the glow of the skyline. He looked serene, almost still, but Ava knew better. She knew that underneath that composure was a force capable of shifting the trajectory of an entire corporation or an entire life. "Dad," she whispered, "what did you activate?" Jonathan didn't answer immediately. He turned slowly, his expression unreadable. Legal protection, financial audits, contract terminations, public statements, and a restraining mandate. Ava stiffened. "All at once?" "Yes," Jonathan said simply. "But won't that destroy him?" Jonathan stepped closer, placing a hand on her shoulder. "He destroyed your trust. He endangered your daughter. He allowed violence against you." His voice deepened. "This isn't destruction. This is accountability." Ava swallowed hard. She had always known her father as powerful, protective, but tonight he was something else entirely. A storm in human form. And that storm was moving directly toward Liam. A knock sounded at the suite door. Jonathan gestured for Ava to remain seated. "Just a security update," he said softly. He opened the door to find his head of security, Damien Cole, standing stiff and alert. "Sir," Damien said, "we've monitored the restaurant and the aftermath. Liam Hayes and Charlotte Hale left separately. Charlotte appears agitated. Hayes appears unstable." Jonathan's jaw set. "What about the public?" "Dozens of witnesses filmed the confrontation," Damien replied. "But no footage shows Ava being pushed, only the argument." "That's fine," Jonathan said. "Facts matter more than theatrics. Proceed as planned." Damien nodded. "Yes, sir, and one more thing." Jonathan raised an eyebrow. "We've contacted Hayes's partners. 3 have already requested immediate review of his position. 1 has asked for a meeting at dawn." Jonathan's lips curved into something cold, precise. "Good." Ava's breath caught. "Dad, how fast is this going to happen?" Jonathan turned to her with gentle honesty. "By tomorrow morning his life won't look anything like it does now." Ava pressed a hand to her chest. Guilt flickered in her eyes. "I never wanted revenge. I just wanted to be safe." Jonathan knelt in front of her, his voice softening again. "Sweetheart, this isn't revenge. This is me refusing to let anyone hurt you." Then, with more gravity, "You didn't start this, but I will end it." A tear slid down Ava's cheek. Jonathan wiped it gently with his thumb. "You've suffered enough." Across the city, Liam sat alone in his apartment, an upscale Darlinghurst loft he once felt proud of, now suffocatingly silent. The curtains were drawn, but flashes of lightning illuminated the room every few seconds, exposing the chaos within him. His hands shook as he opened his laptop. He needed to think, to plan, to fix something, anything. But the moment his home screen loaded, his email notifications exploded. Termination request from Archer Legal Partners. Joint project suspended pending review. Account access restricted, board discussion scheduled. Urgent licensing compliance alert. Liam's head spun. He clicked one email. then another. Then another. Each message cut deeper. Each message was a brick pulled from the foundation of the life he built. "This can't be happening," he whispered. "Not this fast." A sudden knock on his door made him jump. He approached it cautiously, heart pounding. When he opened it, 2 uniformed officers stood in the hallway. "Liam Hayes?" one asked. "Yes," he said, voice weak. "We're here to deliver a temporary protective order, effective immediately. You are prohibited from contacting or approaching Ava Hartley within 500 meters." Liam's breath caught. "A restraining order? She thinks I'm dangerous." The officer handed him the documents. "She didn't file this, her legal guardian did." Liam felt his knees buckle. "Jonathan." "Of course." He swallowed hard. Can I leave a message for her? Tell her I'm sorry?" "No, sir," the officer replied. "That is now illegal." Liam stared at the paper, rain dripping from the hallway light onto the tile floor. "I didn't push her," he whispered. "I didn't touch her." But as the officers left, he whispered something else, something far more devastating. "I didn't protect her." Meanwhile, Charlotte Hale sat in her luxury apartment in Bondi, pacing nervously, her mind calculating escape routes. She had been arrogant earlier, dismissive, even amused. But now? Her phone buzzed. A message from her modeling agency. "Effective immediately. Your contract is under suspension pending public behavior investigation." Another from her luxury skincare sponsor. "We are terminating our partnership due to brand risk concerns." More messages poured in, each one severing income, influence, opportunity. Charlotte's breathing turned shallow. No, this can't be happening." She threw her phone across the room, screaming. But no matter how loudly she screamed, Jonathan's influence echoed louder. Back at Hartley Tower, Ava finished her exam and slowly eased herself onto the bed, exhaustion gripping her bones. Jonathan sat beside her. "You need sleep. The worst is already underway." Ava looked up at him. "What about tomorrow?" Jonathan brushed a strand of hair from her forehead, fatherly, tender. "Tomorrow," he said softly, "you'll wake up safe, and they'll wake up changed." Ava nodded, her eyes drifting to her belly as her daughter kicked softly. Jonathan placed a hand gently over hers. "You're not alone anymore, Ava. I'm here, and no one will ever harm you again." As Ava finally drifted into sleep, Jonathan stood by the window once more, watching the storm roll across the skyline. He wasn't angry anymore. He was focused. And when Jonathan Hartley focused, the world moved. Tomorrow the reckoning would begin. Dawn crept slowly over Sydney, washing the skyline in pale gold, but neither the light nor the calm breeze could soften the tension woven into the city that morning. Jonathan Hartley was already awake, already dressed in a sharp navy suit, already issuing orders before the sun had fully risen. Power didn't sleep, and neither did a father whose daughter had been harmed. Inside the penthouse suite of Hartley Tower, Ava lay curled on her side, one hand resting gently over her belly. The baby shifted now and then, small, fluttering kicks, as if sensing her mother's lingering fear. The night had been long, heavy, but sleep had brought Ava a pocket of quiet, a space to breathe, a moment to forget the image of Charlotte's hand forcing her backward, a moment to forget Liam's cold, lifeless stare. Jonathan stood in the doorway, watching her with a mixture of relief and heartbreak. She looked younger when she slept, fragile, vulnerable, but also strong, stronger than anyone had ever given her credit for. His daughter had survived betrayal, lies, manipulation, emotional violence, and last night physical danger. He would not let the world break her again. A soft knock sounded behind him. Damien Cole stepped into the hall. "Sir, the reports you requested are ready." Jonathan nodded. "Let's move." They walked to the private boardroom, floor-to-ceiling glass walls with a sweeping view of the harbour, a room where Jonathan had made decisions that shifted entire industries. Today, however, Jonathan wasn't thinking about mergers or mining rights or international investment portfolios. Today he was thinking about one man, one woman, and a reckoning long overdue. Damien slid a folder across the table. "This is everything on Liam Hayes's current financial and professional status. As you expected, he's fragile." Jonathan opened the file. Inside was a detailed breakdown. Corporate partnerships suspended, joint ventures frozen, company credentials under investigation, primary investors pulling out, reputation index collapsing. Jonathan's face revealed nothing. "And the restraining order?" "Served," Damien said. "He broke down when we arrived, could barely speak." Jonathan didn't react. "Good." Damien hesitated. "Sir, he seemed genuinely remorseful." Jonathan lifted his eyes slowly. "Remorse is not redemption." Damien lowered his gaze. "Understood." Jonathan turned the page. And the next file was Charlotte Hale's. Her world was collapsing even faster than Liam's. Brand sponsorships terminated. Modeling agency suspended, public profile under scrutiny, social media flooded with backlash. Jonathan closed the folder with quiet finality. "Both of them will spend the next decade rebuilding what they destroyed in one night," he said, "if they ever rebuild at all." Damien nodded. "What would you like us to do next?" Jonathan glanced at his watch. It's time the public understood exactly who they harmed. Damien hesitated. "Are you sure?" Jonathan's voice was ice. "Release the statement." Damien nodded. "Yes, sir." He left the room swiftly. Jonathan leaned back in his chair, staring out at the harbour as the first ferry of the morning glided across the water. Birds swooped low, the sky brightened, life continued. But for some people, life would never look the same again. Across the city, Liam Hayes woke up on the couch of his apartment, still wearing yesterday's clothes, surrounded by empty water bottles and crumpled tissues. His eyes were swollen, his head pounding, his mind foggy with guilt. His phone buzzed. He ignored it. It buzzed again. And again. Annoyed, he reached for it. What he saw made his blood run cold. Breaking news. CEO Jonathan Hartley confirms daughter was endangered in public altercation. Hartley issues statement. My daughter and unborn granddaughter are now safe. Sources confirm restraining order placed on Liam Hayes after incident. Liam's chest tightened painfully. He scrolled. Each headline was worse than the last. Investors distance themselves from Hayes. Public demands accountability. Has Hayes been hiding infidelity scandal? Witnesses describe disturbing behavior at restaurant. Liam dropped the phone to the carpet, hands shaking violently. This can't be happening, he whispered. Please, not like this. He buried his face in his hands, tears gathering in his eyes. He wasn't crying because he'd been exposed. He was crying because he finally understood something devastating. He did this to himself. Charlotte Hale sat at her kitchen counter, mascara smeared, hair tangled, breathing through panic as she stared at her phone's explosion of notifications. Thousands of comments, hundreds of news articles, dozens of ex-friends distancing themselves. And then one notification rose above the others. Cancelled photo shoot. Breach of professionalism code, contract dissolved. Failure to uphold brand integrity. Permanent removal. Reputation risk. Charlotte dropped her phone. Her hands pressed against her temples. No, he can't do this to me. But Jonathan hadn't done anything illegal. He didn't threaten her. He didn't speak her name. He simply told the truth. And the truth was enough to ruin her. At Hartley Tower, Jonathan stepped quietly back into the penthouse suite. Ava was awake now, sitting up, hair messy, eyes soft. "Dad, what time is it?" she asked. "Early," he said gently. "You slept well." Ava nodded. "The baby's calm." Jonathan's shoulders eased. "Good." Ava studied his face. "You already started, didn't you?" Jonathan didn't answer. He didn't need to. Ava looked down at her hands. "Does it make me a bad person if I feel relieved?" Jonathan sat beside her. "After what they did to you, after what you've endured, feeling safe is not cruelty, it's healing." A tear slid down Ava's cheek. Jonathan brushed it away. "What happens today?" she asked softly. Jonathan took her hand. His voice was calm, steady, absolute. "Today," he said, "you rise." And they fall. Morning light filtered through the penthouse windows, painting soft gold across the polished marble floors. Ava stood by the glass wall, watching the harbour shimmer beneath the rising sun. The world outside looked peaceful, untouched by the chaos of the night before. But inside her chest, emotions churned in quiet waves. Jonathan approached her slowly, carrying 2 cups of tea. He set one in her hands. "Peppermint. Good for the baby." Ava smiled weakly. "Thanks, Dad." He studied her face. "How's your breathing?" Better, she said, still scattered. Jonathan placed a steady hand on her back. That will pass. You're safe now. Ava nodded, though the heaviness in her eyes lingered. Safety didn't erase betrayal. It didn't undo the way Liam had watched her fall backward, frozen, choosing silence over protection, and it didn't erase the moment Charlotte had smirked as if Ava were disposable. Ava sipped the tea. What if this never stops hurting? Jonathan's voice softened. It will, not today, but soon. The elevator chimed. Damien stepped out with a tablet in hand. Sir, everything is set. The partners' meeting begins in 20 minutes. Good, Jonathan replied. Ava turned. Partners' meeting for what? Jonathan hesitated just for a moment. For Liam, his board demanded an emergency review. Ava's breath hitched. Because of last night? Jonathan didn't soften the truth, because they finally see who he really is. Ava gripped the cup tighter. Dad, don't let them destroy him completely. Jonathan's expression didn't change, but something in his eyes shifted. Pain or perhaps a flicker of conflict. He stepped closer. Ava, he failed you. He endangered you. He let someone put hands on his pregnant wife. Ava looked down at her belly. Her daughter shifted, small, soft, alive. Jonathan continued, voice low. I won't let you ask mercy for a man who didn't show you any. Ava swallowed. I'm not asking for mercy. She met his eyes. I'm asking for fairness. Jonathan took a slow breath. Fairness, he repeated, is exactly what today will be. Damien cleared his throat. Sir, they're waiting. Jonathan nodded once. Let's go. He squeezed Ava's shoulder gently before leaving. Rest. I'll be back soon. Ava watched him walk away. Her father, her protector, her shield. The man the world feared, but the man she trusted more than anyone on earth. When the door closed, she whispered to her unborn daughter, He's doing this for us, for you. Her voice cracked slightly. I just hope we survive completely. Jonathan's expression didn't change, but something in his eyes shifted. Pain or perhaps a flicker of conflict. He stepped closer. Ava, he failed you. He endangered you. He let someone put hands on his pregnant wife. Ava looked down at her belly. Her daughter shifted, small, soft, alive. Jonathan continued, voice low. I won't let you ask mercy for a man who didn't show you any. Ava swallowed. I'm not asking for mercy. She met his eyes. I'm asking for fairness. Jonathan took a slow breath. Fairness, he repeated, is exactly what today will be. Damien cleared his throat. Sir, they're waiting. Jonathan nodded once. Let's go. He squeezed Ava's shoulder gently before leaving. Rest. I'll be back soon. Ava watched him walk away. Her father, her protector, her shield. The man the world feared, but the man she trusted more than anyone on earth. When the door closed, she whispered to her unborn daughter, He's doing this for us, for you. Her voice cracked slightly. I just hope we survive the fallout. Downstairs in the 40th floor boardroom, the atmosphere buzzed with tension. Executives, lawyers, compliance directors, all seated around the long table, papers and tablets in front of them. Liam Hayes sat alone at the far end. He looked nothing like the polished man he once presented to the world. His shirt wrinkled, his eyes red, his hands trembling. The moment Jonathan entered the room, every head bowed slightly, not out of courtesy but out of caution. The air shifted instantly, heavier, sharper. Jonathan didn't sit. He stood behind Liam, tall as a shadow, immovable as stone. The lead partner cleared his throat. "Mr. Hayes, we've reviewed the events of last night, your recent conduct, and your violation of professional ethics. Due to severe reputation risk and breach of fiduciary standards." Liam's breath caught. "Please, just let me explain." Jonathan's voice sliced through the room. "There is nothing left to explain." Liam froze. Jonathan stepped around the table, stopping across from him. The room fell utterly silent. "You let my daughter be assaulted," Jonathan said. "You stood there and watched as a woman you brought into her life put her hands on her. You didn't step in. You didn't protect her. You humiliated her in public while she carried your child." Liam's voice trembled. I panicked." "No," Jonathan said. "You chose." The partner cleared his throat again. "Given the circumstances, we've reached a decision." Liam swallowed hard. "You are hereby suspended from all leadership duties, pending full internal investigation, effective immediately." Liam's chest constricted, as though each word stripped away a piece of his air. "I understand," he whispered brokenly. Jonathan leaned in slightly, his voice a low blade. "This is mercy. Do not mistake it for weakness." Liam's eyes filled. "I just want to apologize to her." Jonathan didn't blink. "You won't." "Please, just once." "Never." The finality in Jonathan's voice made the room shiver. Liam broke. Tears slipped down his cheeks as his hands trembled over the table. "I didn't want to hurt her. I still love her. I just lost myself." Jonathan's expression didn't soften. "And now you pay the cost of that loss." Liam covered his face with shaking hands. For a moment, just a moment, Jonathan looked at him with something almost human, almost sympathetic, almost pitying. But then it vanished. Jonathan straightened. "The board has spoken. Damien, escort him out." Damien placed a firm hand on Liam's shoulder. Liam stood, legs unsteady. Before leaving, he turned with desperation in his voice. "Jonathan, please, tell her I never wanted this." Jonathan didn't answer. He simply turned away. Liam's heart cracked. And then he was gone. Back upstairs, Ava sat quietly on the sofa when Jonathan returned. He loosened his tie, his shoulders heavy with quiet exhaustion. Ava looked up. "How bad was it?" Jonathan hesitated. "He's removed, suspended pending investigation." Ava closed her eyes. A long, shaky breath escaped her. Jonathan sat beside her. "Does that ease your fear?" Ava nodded slowly. "Yes, it does." Jonathan rested a hand on her back. But Ava's next words came softly, painfully. "Dad, I don't want him hurt more than necessary. I just want him gone from my life." Jonathan exhaled. "That," he said gently, "I can promise." Ava leaned into him and whispered, "Thank you." Jonathan closed his eyes. But deep inside he knew something she didn't. This wasn't over. Charlotte was still out there. And storms always had an aftershock. A soft rain had begun to fall over Sydney by mid-afternoon, streaking the glass walls of the penthouse and filling the suite with the quiet, rhythmic sound of water tapping against the city. Ava sat curled on the sofa, wrapped in a blanket, her hands resting protectively over her belly. The baby kicked gently, rhythmic and steady, small reminders that life still moved forward, even when everything else felt fractured. Jonathan entered the room silently, holding a plate of sliced fruit. "You need to eat," he said, placing it beside her. Ava offered a faint smile. "Thanks, I feel drained." "You will," he said softly. "Shark takes a toll." Ava looked up at him. Was he angry, desperate? Jonathan sat beside her. He cried. Ava's breath caught, pain twisting briefly in her chest. Not longing, not love, just the grief of what had been lost. Jonathan added, "But he accepted responsibility. That is more than most men in his position would have done." Ava lowered her gaze. "I didn't want him destroyed." Jonathan studied her. "You didn't destroy him. He destroyed himself. I simply held up the mirror." Ava looked out at the rain-soaked harbor, her voice barely above a whisper. "Why wasn't I enough, Dad? Why didn't he see me? Why didn't he protect me?" Jonathan reached out and gently took her hand. "Sweetheart, a man who fails at his simplest duty, protection, never deserved you in the first place." A tear slid down Ava's cheek. "But I loved him." Jonathan nodded. "And you were loyal, you were kind, you were devoted. That's not weakness, Ava, that's your strength." He squeezed her hand. "And that's why this hurts so much." Ava breathed shakily. "What happens now?" Jonathan's expression darkened slightly. "Now we deal with Charlotte." Ava stiffened. "She's still out there." "Yes," Jonathan said quietly, "and she's unpredictable." Ava's heart thudded. "Do you think she'll come after me?" Jonathan hesitated, not because he doubted his answer, but because he knew the truth could frighten her. Then he finally said, "I think she's cornered, and cornered people either run or lash out." Ava swallowed hard. "Dad, I'm scared." Jonathan pulled her into his arms, his voice a steady anchor. "You don't have to be. You're under protection now, 24 hours a day. She won't get near you." Ava nodded against his chest, but the fear still pulsed beneath her skin like a quiet tremor. Across the city, Charlotte Hale was anything but calm. Her apartment looked like the aftermath of a storm. Drawers open, clothes scattered, shattered glass from the vase she'd thrown earlier. Her mascara was streaked down her cheeks, her hair tangled, her breath uneven as she paced. Her phone buzzed again. But it wasn't a brand cutting ties this time. It was a friend. Sophia. "Girl, it's everywhere. Videos of the fight, articles, comments. You look awful. What did you do?" Charlotte typed furiously. "I didn't do anything. She's exaggerating." Sophia replied almost instantly. Charlotte, you shoved a pregnant woman. Charlotte threw her phone onto the couch, screaming. She deserved it. She always thought she was better than me, perfect little heiress. She stopped abruptly when she caught her reflection in the mirror. She didn't look glamorous. She didn't look powerful. She looked unhinged. Her breathing grew ragged. It's her fault, she whispered. She ruined everything. Lightning flashed outside the window. Charlotte's fingers tightened around the edge of the counter. If she thinks she can take Liam back now that I'm falling apart, she's wrong. She grabbed her purse. And her keys. And walked out the door. Meanwhile, in the penthouse, Ava attempted to stand, slowly, carefully, holding onto the arm of the sofa. Jonathan immediately stepped in. "Where are you going?" he asked. "Just the balcony. I need air." Jonathan nodded and helped her. Together they stepped out onto the wide terrace overlooking Sydney, the rain misting softly around them, the wind surprisingly gentle. Ava inhaled deeply, the scent of rain mixing with the ocean air. "When I was little," she said quietly, "you used to tell me the rain washed things clean." Jonathan smiled faintly. "It still does." Ava looked down at her belly. "Do you think she feels everything I feel?" "I think she feels your strength," Jonathan said, "and your fear, yes, but she also feels your love. She'll be resilient." Ava brushed her fingers across her stomach. "I want her to grow up in a safe home, one where she never wonders if she's worthy." Jonathan's expression softened. "And she will." Ava turned to him. "I'm not going back to Liam." Jonathan nodded. "I know." Ava took a deep, steady breath. "Then this is the start of my new life." Jonathan's voice was gentle, "and the end of the old one." A long silence settled between them, quiet, reflective, almost sacred. Until Ava's phone buzzed. She glanced down at it. Her face drained of color. Jonathan's posture shifted immediately. "What is it?" Ava handed him the phone with trembling fingers. "Unknown number. I'm coming to talk to you." Jonathan's eyes darkened. "Charlotte," he said. Ava's breath caught. "Dad, what do we do?" Jonathan straightened, already in motion, already calculating, already in protector mode. "We prepare," he said, "and we end this. Not with violence, not with chaos. With precision. And with certainty. Because no one, not a mistress, not a cowardly husband, not a single soul, would ever again threaten his daughter and granddaughter." Ava's pulse hammered violently as she stared at the message glowing on her screen. The words felt like ice sliding down her spine. "I'm coming to talk to you." Jonathan didn't waste a second. He took the phone from her hand, his jaw tightening, his expression sharpening into something lethal, cold, calculating, controlled. "Damien," he called, stepping back inside the penthouse. The head of security appeared instantly, as if summoned by instinct alone. "Sir?" Jonathan handed him the phone. "Trace it." Damien nodded once. On it. Ava wrapped her arms around herself, stepping back from the balcony as fear crept up her throat. Dad, if she comes here... She won't make it within a kilometer of this building, Jonathan said firmly. The tower is locked down, cameras, guards, access points. There's no angle she can breach. Ava swallowed, but her fear wasn't only physical, it was emotional. Charlotte wasn't just reckless, she was unhinged, and a desperate woman with nothing left to lose was the most dangerous kind of threat. What if she finds another way? Ava whispered. Jonathan stepped in front of her, placing both hands on her shoulders. Listen to me, you are not alone, you are not unprotected, you are not vulnerable. Charlotte Hale's life is falling apart, but that does not give her the power to reach you. Ava nodded slowly, trying to breathe. Jonathan's voice softened. Let me handle this. Ava sat back on the sofa, clutching a pillow, the baby shifting beneath her ribs. Inside, she prayed silently, not for herself, but for stability, for safety, for peace, and for this nightmare to finally end. Jonathan and Damien stepped aside while Damien opened a secure tracking interface. It's a prepaid SIM card, Damien said. Cheap, no contract, but she made a mistake. What mistake? Jonathan asked. Damien zoomed in. She sent it while connected to the Wi-Fi of her building. Towers pinged her exact location. Jonathan's eyes narrowed. Where is she? Damien turned the screen. Charlotte's location flashed on a map. Bondi Road driving, heading toward the CBD. Ava's heart dropped. She's coming here. Jonathan exhaled with icy calm. Then we intercept her before she reaches the district. Ava grabbed the arm of the sofa. Dad, don't let anything happen to her. I don't want this turning into something worse. Jonathan looked at her. Nothing will happen, but she will not touch you again. Damien spoke quickly. I'll dispatch ground units. They'll intercept her car within minutes. Jonathan nodded. Good. But just then, Damien's eyes flicked to a new alert. Sir, there's something else. She's not just driving. She's live on social media. Ava's throat tightened. What? Damien turned the tablet so Jonathan could see. Charlotte sat in her car, mascara smeared, eyes wild, hands shaking around her steering wheel. She was live streaming to over 20,000 viewers. I don't care what the internet says, Charlotte snapped into the camera. I don't care what that princess heiress posts or what sob story she tells. She took everything from me. Ava pressed a hand to her mouth, horrified. Charlotte continued, voice rising, breaking. Liam was mine. He was with me because she was weak, boring, useless. And now she wants to pretend she's the victim? Jonathan's fists clenched. Charlotte leaned closer to the camera, eyes wild. I'm done playing nice. I'm going to tell her exactly what I think, face to face. The stream glitched as her car hit a bump. Jonathan snapped, cut the connection. Damien typed furiously. We can block it from our side. Give me 2 seconds. The live stream abruptly froze. Then disappeared. Ava exhaled in relief, shaken, trembling, pale. Jonathan turned sharply. Damien, stop her car, now! Yes, sir. Charlotte drove faster, windshield wipers thrashing against the glass as rain intensified. Her heart pounded with fury and panic, her mind a cyclone of humiliation and self-pity. "How dare she ruin my life?" she muttered, wiping frantically at her eyes. "How dare she play the victim?" Her phone buzzed. Stream removed due to violation. She threw it onto the passenger seat, gripping the wheel harder. "No one silences me!" she shouted. But she didn't notice the shadowy SUV pulling up behind her, or the second one flanking her left side, or the third one ahead, slowing deliberately. Her eyes widened as she finally realized she was boxed in. What is this?" The SUVs coordinated seamlessly, forming a controlled containment pattern. Charlotte's car jerked. "Hey, back off." But the SUVs didn't back off. They slowed her to a crawl, then to a stop. Her breaths turned frantic. The rain pounded harder. The world outside blurred. The passenger door of the lead SUV opened. A tall man in black stepped out, umbrella raised. He approached Charlotte's window and tapped it politely. "Ms. Hale," he said evenly, "please turn off the vehicle." Charlotte's entire body shook. "No, I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm just going to talk to her." The man didn't blink. "Turn off the car, now." Charlotte's lip trembled. Is this Hartley's doing?" He didn't answer, which meant yes. Charlotte's mind spiraled. "He can't do this. He's not the police. He has no right." "Turn off the vehicle," the man repeated. Her hand shook violently as she obeyed. 2 more officers approached, blocking her view of the road. Her panic pitched into a sob. "I wasn't going to hurt anyone. I just needed to fix things." The man opened her door gently. "This doesn't need to escalate," he said, "but you will not approach Miss Hartley, not today, not ever." Charlotte's breath broke. Please don't arrest me." "Oh, you're not being arrested," he said calmly. "You're being redirected." She trembled violently as he guided her from the car. "Where are you taking me?" she cried. "To a safe location," he said, "where you can calm down." But Charlotte wasn't calm. She was unraveling. And for the first time since her life began collapsing, she was scared, terrified, broken. Back in the penthouse, Ava sat on the sofa, hands pressed over her mouth, tears streaming down her cheeks, not for Charlotte, but from the shock of seeing how far the chaos had spiraled. Jonathan stood before her, steady, unmoved, a wall between her and the world. "It's done," he said gently. Ava's voice trembled. "Where is she now?" "In custody," Jonathan replied. "Private security, not police. She won't face jail, but she will face consequences." Ava nodded slowly. Her breath steadied. Her shoulders relaxed. Jonathan knelt beside her and took her hand. "It's over," he said softly. Ava closed her eyes. But Jonathan knew something she didn't. This was the end of Charlotte. But not the last fracture they would have to face. And the biggest fracture was still inside her heart. Night settled over Sydney like a velvet curtain, the city glittering beneath the dark sky. But inside the penthouse, the atmosphere was quieter, thicker, heavy with everything unsaid. Ava sat curled up on the sofa, a blanket draped around her shoulders, sipping warm chamomile tea Jonathan had made. Her father stood by the windows, watching the harbour, hands in his pockets, face stoic but shadowed by thought. For a long moment neither of them spoke. Then Ava whispered, barely audible, "Dad, why did Liam change?" Jonathan turned slightly but didn't interrupt. Ava continued, staring into her tea. "He used to be gentle, he used to care. I remember when I told him I was pregnant. He cried. He actually cried. He held me for an hour." Her voice cracked. Jonathan walked over slowly and sat across from her. "The man's heart," he said softly, "doesn't always fail in one moment. Sometimes it rots slowly, one selfish decision at a time." Ava's eyes filled again. "But I don't understand what I did wrong." Jonathan leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "You didn't do anything wrong." Ava's lips trembled. "Then why wasn't I enough?" Jonathan's jaw tightened, not with anger at her but at Liam. He spoke carefully. "Weak men chase validation. Strong men protect what matters. Liam stopped being strong the moment he let someone else whisper into his ego." Ava wiped her cheek. "Charlotte." Jonathan nodded once. She fed what was already cracked inside him, but the cracks were his, not yours. Ava swallowed, gaze falling to her stomach. I wanted us to be a family." Jonathan softened. "You will be, you and your daughter, and one day someone who deserves you." Ava's tears spilled silently. Jonathan stood and sat beside her, pulling her into a gentle embrace. For a moment she simply leaned on him, letting herself be the daughter who didn't have to be strong all the time. Meanwhile, across the city, Liam sat alone in a dim, empty office. His office, or rather, what used to be. The company logo had already been removed from the glass wall. His desk was cleared. His computer access revoked. It had taken less than 12 hours for his professional world to collapse. He stared numbly at the blank desktop, replaying everything Charlotte said to him in the restaurant, everything he had seen in her live stream, everything he had done to Ava. His hands shook. He had never intended for things to go this far. But intentions didn't matter. Consequences did. His phone buzzed again, messages from co-workers, friends, business partners. He didn't open them. He didn't have to. He already knew what they said. He had become a cautionary tale. A scandal. A man who betrayed a pregnant wife for a woman who didn't give a damn about him. He lowered his face into his hands. The door opened behind him. He didn't look up. He already knew who it was. "Get up," Jonathan said quietly. Liam froze. He lifted his head slowly. Jonathan stepped inside, closing the door behind him, not aggressively, but with absolute certainty. The kind of certainty that said he wasn't here to negotiate. He walked toward Liam with calm, precise footsteps. Liam stood automatically. "Mr. Hartley, I... Jonathan raised a hand. "Don't, not yet." Liam swallowed hard. Jonathan stopped 2 steps from him. He didn't look angry. He didn't need to. Cold authority radiated from him like gravity. "Do you understand what you've done?" Jonathan asked. Liam's throat tightened. I made mistakes." "Mistakes," Jonathan repeated. "A mistake is forgetting an anniversary. What you did was betrayal, degradation, psychological cruelty, and endangerment of my daughter and my grandchild." Liam's face crumpled. I know, I was stupid, I was blind, I let Charlotte..." Jonathan cut him off sharply. "You let yourself." Liam lowered his gaze. There was no arguing with that. Jonathan continued, "You are not here to make excuses. You are here because I want you to understand the consequences of your actions. Fully." Liam's breathing grew shallow. Jonathan removed a folded document from his coat. "This is the dissolution agreement. You will sign it." Liam frowned. What does it say?" "In simple terms," Jonathan said, "you lose everything you received through our family's support. The apartment, the investment stipends, the shares, the joint accounts, the travel cards, the company car, and most importantly..." Jonathan's eyes hardened. "You will have no access to Ava." Liam's face drained of blood. "No access, but she's my wife." "She was," Jonathan corrected. "She will file for divorce in the coming days, and you will not contest it." Liam's voice broke. "And the baby?" Jonathan stepped closer. His voice softened, not with mercy, but with truth. "You gave up the right to call yourself a father the moment you chose to harm the woman carrying that child." Liam shook. "No, please, I want to be there. I want to fix things. I want..." "You want," Jonathan repeated. "But wanting isn't enough. If you had wanted to be a father, you would have protected them." Liam's eyes brimmed with tears. Jonathan placed the papers on the desk. "Sign." Liam stared at them. His hand trembled. Tears blurred his sight. Slowly he picked up the pen. He signed. And with that signature, Liam lost everything. Back at the penthouse, Ava lay on the bed, exhaustion dragging her deeper into the sheets. The baby kicked lightly beneath her palm. a soft reminder of life, pure, untouched by all the chaos. Jonathan entered the room quietly. Ava looked up. "Did you talk to him?" Jonathan nodded once. "It's done." Ava exhaled slowly, relief weaving through her chest. "Thank you," she whispered. Jonathan kissed her forehead gently. "Rest now." He turned off the light as she curled onto her side. For the first time in months, Ava slept without fear. But tomorrow, she would wake into a new reality. A reality she would build from the ground up. And this time, nothing and no one would break her again. Morning sunlight spilled gently across the penthouse as Ava woke to the soft rustle of curtains. For a moment, she lay still, hand resting on her belly, listening to the rhythmic sound of her own breathing and the distant hum of Sydney's waking traffic. The world felt different, lighter, quieter, as if the chaos of the night before had dissolved into something she could finally step away from. Jonathan entered the room with a soft knock, a tray in his hands, fresh fruit toast and ginger tea. "Good morning, sweetheart," he said, voice warm in a way only she ever heard. Ava smiled faintly. "Morning?" He set the tray beside her. "Sleep well?" "For the first time in months," she murmured, adjusting herself slowly. "It feels like I can breathe." Jonathan's eyes softened. That's how it should always feel. Ava took a sip of her tea, her gaze drifting to the skyline beyond the glass. The harbour glistened, brilliant and peaceful, and for the first time in too long, she allowed herself to imagine a future without fear. A future where she could simply exist, love her baby and rebuild without someone tearing her apart. Jonathan sat on the edge of the bed. "There's something I want to show you," he said. Ava arched a brow. "What is it?" He simply smiled. "You'll see. Get dressed. Something comfortable." 40 minutes later, they were gliding through the sky in Jonathan's private helicopter. Ava looked out the window, the city shrinking beneath them. They passed Circular Quay, the Opera House, Bondi's crescent of blue and gold. She inhaled deeply, the wind vibrating through the cabin like a living heartbeat. "Where are we going?" she asked. Jonathan only smiled. "Home." Ava frowned. "The penthouse is home." Jonathan shook his head. "Not anymore." The helicopter began to descend toward the coastline, past Coogee, past Maroubra, until an isolated cliffside came into view, crowned by a sprawling modern mansion of glass and stone, facing the endless expanse of the Pacific. Ava's eyes widened. "Dad, what is that?" Jonathan placed a hand over hers. "Your new beginning." They landed on a rooftop helipad. Ocean wind swept through Ava's hair as Jonathan helped her down. The mansion stretched before her, all clean lines, open spaces, floor-to-ceiling windows, and sunlit terraces overlooking rolling waves that crashed far below. Ava stepped inside the main living area, breath-catching. The home was warm, elegant, filled with soft earth tones and airy textures. Nothing cold, nothing harsh. It felt like safety built into walls. "I bought this years ago," Jonathan said gently. "But I never used it. I always felt someone else would need it more than I ever would." Ava turned to him, stunned. "Dad, it's beautiful." "It's yours," he said simply. You and the baby will stay here for as long as you want. No stress, no noise, no expectations, just peace. Ava's throat tightened. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything, Jonathan replied. You've survived enough, now you get to live. Ava's eyes brimmed with tears, soft, grateful, healing tears. Jonathan opened his arms and she stepped into them, resting her head against his chest as the ocean whispered in the background. You're safe now, he murmured. Meanwhile, across Sydney, Liam sat alone in his now empty apartment, an apartment he would soon be forced to vacate. He stared at the dissolution papers, at his own signature, at the remnants of a life he had destroyed with his own hands. Charlotte had vanished, her followers had turned on her, her sponsors dropped her, her streams were filled with mocking comments and disbelief. The internet had devoured her. Liam had lost his future, Charlotte had lost her fame, and together they had lost everything they thought they controlled. Liam whispered Ava's name into the quiet room, but it echoed back at him hollow and cold. His phone buzzed. One final message from Jonathan Hartley. Do not contact her again. Ever. Liam closed his eyes. For once he obeyed. Back at the cliffside mansion, Ava stood on the balcony, the ocean wind brushing against her skin. Her hands rested on her belly as her daughter kicked softly, as if sensing the calm around them. She whispered, We're okay now, I promise. Jonathan stepped beside her, offering a gentle smile. What happens next, he said, is up to you, but whatever path you choose,